Minasama konnichiwa. Obuku wa Tim Luenberg desu. O genki desu ka? What? Oh, Pikakucha? Pikakucha? Pikaku? I've got it all confused. I wasn't quite sure what this was about. So guys, it's Tim Luenberg coming to you from Kangaroo Island. Now, those of you who know me know I'm a country doctor and I've got airways very much dear to my heart. There's a really important message that I want to get out there to country doctors and those practicing anaesthesia or airway management in remote places. Now, I may not make it to SMAC. I'm going to the WOMAD Festival, so I thought I'd bung this talk up just in advance. So let's smack it.
Let me smack it.
So this is the view from the Kangaroo Island Hospital. That's Australia in the far distance on the left-hand side. It's a beautiful view, but one of the difficulties of being a country doctor is that we have to manage critical illness. After all, it doesn't respect geography, but with only a modicum of kit that's available to you guys in the city. So I've been inspired as a country doc by some of the people above. These are bloggers who have enabled us to change our practice in the bush. We're really trying to deliver quality care out there. So listening to these blogs makes us question our practice, and that's a good thing. 2012, I went out and I surveyed rural GP anaesthetists. We're the guys who look after elective airways, but are also called upon to manage emergency airways before transfer. I got a 65% response rate. That's considered good for an internet-based survey, but unfortunately it was one of the few good things we found. Can you believe that only 53% of rural GP anaesthetists had access to a dedicated difficult airway kit, a trolley or a box? That's disappointing. 16% had video laryngoscopes, only 7 in 10 had intubating LMAs, and very few had access to kit to manage a surgical airway. Now that's really surprising. The Australian New Zealand College of Anaesthetists has standards on equipment to be available to manage the difficult airway, and one can imagine that that's more pressing in places where there is no backup. There's also algorithms. This is one from the UK Difficult Airway Society, and this difficult airway algorithm specifies equipment that is needed at each stage of plans A, B, C and D. So the purpose of this talk is to give rural doctors, and indeed those working in smaller EDs and ICUs, the equipment that they need. So plan A is always to intubate the trachea. Now we've got a variety of blades, tubes and manoeuvres that we can use. You've all read the blogs, you know what to do. But of course video laryngoscopes, traditionally expensive, are now affordable and potentially game changers. This is one video laryngoscope. It's available for around $1,000, and this is a medical student intubating. It's child's play. If we fail to intubate, we need to move on to a plan B. And the easiest thing to do is to drop in a intubating laryngeal mask, to rescue ventilate through that, and then to attempt blind intubation through the LMA as a conduit. Now the device with which most people are familiar is the fast track LMA. It's an easy device to use. This is it in the picture, but it does have a number of barriers, not least that hyperacute angle. So the new generation LMAs offer some advantages. It doesn't have the same hyperacute angle that the fast track does. This one is the AirQ2. It also has a gastric drainage port, but it allows both blind intubation, but more importantly, it allows us another option, and that is to use a fibre optic device. Now, for around $2,000, you can buy one of these two. On the left is a malleable stylet, which you can pass through the LMA, and on the right is a flexible scope, the ambuascope. Both of these are affordable and would allow visualization of the chords using the LMA as a conduit. Plan C is rescue ventilation and to awaken the patient if possible. Now all this really requires is bag mask valve, of course a two-handed technique, and I'm not going to say much more about that. We should have that equipment in every small country hospital. But of course, if we fail to rescue ventilate and oxygenate, we are in a can't intubate, cannot oxygenate scenario, and we have two choices, either needle or surgical cricothyroidotomy. I'm not going to go into the specifics of which is the best. You can read about that on some of the blogs. But suffice it to say, the equipment is available and affordable for a few $100s. So putting it all together, how much does it really cost to have this kit? A video laryngoscope around $1,000, an AirQ2, they're $30 each, and a fibre optic device around $2,000. So look, at the most, for under $4,000, there is no excuse not to have this equipment on your difficult airway trolley. So I would encourage you, country doctors of Australia, and indeed those elsewhere, you now have the evidence. Have a look at the paper, use this as a tool to persuade the bean counters to buy the equipment you need. Set yourself up with difficult airway trolleys and signage so that the equipment is readily available and easy to find. You can set up a local specific difficult airway plan. This is one we have for Kangaroo Island, and you'll see that not only does it have the standard plan A, B, C, D, but it also has visual prompts for the equipment that is needed at each of the stages. So there you have it, under $4,000, an affordable toolkit to manage difficult airways wherever you are. Now I need to talk about conflict of interest. I'm not employed or sponsored by any of these airway equipment manufacturers. The major conflict here is that I'm trying to do bush medicine with the equivalence of a piece of string and a coat hanger. So if you've got an iPad mini going, give it to me, not Min.